Give them back their passports. Happy Wednesday, everyone. So UPenn has stripped Leah Thomas of his titles in women's swimming and apologized to the ladies he defeated. Yeah. Thomas hasn't complained, further proving he's not a woman. Planned Parenthood urged men to get screened for cervical cancer. Count me in, said one dude. A 21-year-old British woman set a world record by rowing across the Atlantic. Apparently, she didn't know how to start the engine. Earlier today, Sean Combs was acquitted on the top charges in his sex trafficking case. The decision left many critics pissed off and many victims pissed on. Oh. The popular halftime show performer Red Panda was injured after falling off her unicycle at a WNBA game. She was quickly removed from the arena, making her the envy of everyone there.
Sensing a theme here.
Yes. Blondie singer Harry admitted to plastic surgery because being attractive is a selling point in showbiz. Music experts disagreed, pointing to Taylor Swift.
Really?
A man carrying 16 live snakes on a flight from Thailand has been arrested in India. Meanwhile, passengers were thrilled there was meal service. New York City tour guides are now giving late-night rat tours around the city. You know the rats are from New York because they don't speak English. More and more women are flocking to Catholic monasteries with nuns to take a vow of silence. Women call it the vow of silence summer, whereas men call it heaven on earth. Wow, there is a theme. Finally, Europe is in the middle of a record-setting heat wave. In fact, it's so hot in Ireland, Rosie O'Donnell is actually starting to shed. All right. So Trump took a tour of Florida's new detention center for violent criminal illegals. I wonder, what is it known as?
It's known as Alligator Alcatraz, which is very appropriate because I looked outside and that's not a place I want to go hiking anytime soon. This facility will house some of the most menacing migrants, some of the most vicious people on the planet. We're surrounded by miles of treacherous swampland, and the only way out is really deportation.
That description is so perfect. Maybe Trump should go into real estate. I mean, who cares about how many bathrooms he has when the neighborhood makes you your pants? So Alligator Alcatraz is the ice facility surrounded by reptiles, treacherous terrain, and angry Floridians. Meaning it's basically no different than a Motel 6 in Gainesville. But don't worry, Trump is providing a course for illegals looking to avoid being eaten. Are snakes fast?
Snakes are fast, but alligators are, we're going to teach them how to run away from an alligator, okay? If they escape prison. How to run away. Don't run in a straight line. Run like this. And you know what? Your chances go up about 1%, okay? Not a good thing.
Oh, it isn't, sir. He's our president, and we don't deserve him. This center will be for the worst of the worst. The killers, the pedos, the rapists who entered this country under Biden but didn't have time to move to a blue city and run for office. There'll be 5,000 beds so Van Hollen can pack an overnight bag. But instead of sipping margaritas, he and his buddies can make toilet wine from swamp water. Along with 200 security cameras and 28,000 feet of barbed wire. I haven't seen that much security since I managed a Foot Locker in Baltimore. And it was built in 8 days, a testament to Trump. It takes Biden 8 days to empty his bladder. And who doesn't love the name Alligator Alcatraz? Sounds like it came from the great minds behind Sharknado. I can see the movie poster right now. Don Johnson as the warden and Rosie O'Donnell as the Maryland dad. And the man-eating reptiles could be played by these ferocious beasts. So during his visit to Gator Gitmo, Trump couldn't help but remember the left's witch hunt. Who wanted you in here?
Biden wanted me in here, okay? He wanted me. It didn't work out that way, but he wanted me in here, that son of a bitch.
And you know the Gators would have devoured Trump. He's meaty and rich. But you could dump old Joe in the Everglades covered in ketchup, and Gators would be like, we're not hungry. But the facility is the latest move to clean up Biden's mess, and it's making the left madder than Tim Waltz with PMS. One expert calls the stronghold a human rights disaster. Another calls it punitive theater. Sorry, Chief, this is punitive theater.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Trump's coming for our unions. He wants us all to fail. He wants us to bow to him, but we want him in jail.
I'm sorry for that. Of course, the media still peddles their phony compassion.
Alligators rarely attack people. Pythons rarely attack people. That is extremely performative.
These are our friends and our neighbors. These are people who are picking our...
Ron DeSantis is still governor of Florida. He took the Comfy Couch hosts on a tour of the concentration camp that he's building in Florida in order to round up people, brown people, and throw them in a camp because he doesn't want them in Florida.
Oh, they really wanted to torture people. They put them in a room with Joy Reid. But as always, the Dems pretend to care. Oh, you can't send them there. It's cruel and inhumane. But so is Chicago, and the Democrats sent them there. But it's cruel because it's remote and surrounded by gators. You just described every golf course in Florida. Hell, last year, John Daly almost lost his left arm trying to retrieve a six-pack from a water hazard. So any compassion argument is lost the second they waved in the border invasion. They didn't care about the cruelty imposed on Americans. What compassion was shown to Laken Riley, Jocelyn Nungari, or Rachel Morin? Or to those whose friends and neighbors became Trende Aragua? What compassion is shown to the illegals who are sex trafficked by other illegals? I could go on all day, but I left my baby with a neighbor. So save the lectures on empathy when yours is reserved for the perps. Meanwhile, Trump proves yet again how his message can do the heavy lifting in terms of incentives. If you're an illegal, would you want to take a chance ending up at a place like Alligator Alcatraz? Getting bit in the ass by a reptile sure sounds like a disincentive. Just ask anyone who wakes James Carville up from a nap. But Trump's rhetoric does all the hard work. He puts alligators in your head and you're on the first plane to Tijuana hiding in the wheel well. No wonder Trump already got 1 million to self-deport. It's the exact opposite of Biden's message. He called for migrants to surge to the border, and boy, did they. But Trump moved the welcome mat from our southern border to facilities surrounded by angry critters. And that alone tells invaders who break the law that the party's over. And it's better to leave now than become a snack later. Let's welcome tonight's guest. Women give him their room key because they think he's a bellhop. Comedian Joe Mackey. She's as patriotic as a gun rack on a bald eagle. Former Deputy National Security Advisor and CPAC board member KT McFarland. She's like your 4th of July fireworks, bright, loud, and hated by the neighbors. New York Times bestselling author and Fox News contributor Kat Tim. And And he once gave the heads on Mount Rushmore noogies. New York Times bestselling author, comedian, and former NWA world champion Tyrus. Mackie, I'm not going to beat around the bush. You're considered a man's man.
I'd argue if I could, Greg.
No, I get it. You convinced me. Do you think you could escape alligator Alcatraz? In your current shape.
I'd probably try to seduce the guards, Greg, because with all this marbling, I wouldn't want to take my chances with the alligators. They got a bite force of 1,100 pounds per square inch. They would bite my head clean off. It's kind of a dark way to start the show, but
yes. But knowing you would just grow another head.
Probably. I'm that good.
Yes.
I will say this. It's pretty interesting. They're like all upset about what will happen if the people escape, but in a regular prison, you might get shot if you escape, so it's not like it's all that better. I love the idea of using alligators as prison guards. You don't have to pay them. There's no retirement. You just turn them into a suitcase. And if you do get past the alligators, you have to get past the elderly drivers. That's not going to be easy. But I gotta point out, I'm tired of the World War II comparisons, Joy Reid. It's just historically illiterate. This isn't at all anything like a concentration camp. This is like an Australian colony, except back then, if you escaped there, you would have to be in Australia, which is pretty terrifying because there's Russell Crowe's ancestors.
There you go, KT. Do you love it when the left cares about cruelty? And they spend years not saying a word about victims of crime?
This is just such a terrific Trumpian solution to absolutely everything. This was an airfield. This is supposed to be the biggest airport in the world, right? It was built in the 1960s for supersonic aircraft, the Concorde. That didn't work out. They tried to repurpose it. Nothing ever happened. So Trump, good real estate developer, he says, well, what an opportunity here. And DeSantis, great administrator. I can get it done in a couple of days. Okay, maybe a couple of weeks. And they have is one-stop shopping for all the illegals. And it is the only prison in the world that has the walls built, not to keep the people in, but to keep the alligators out. It's just brilliant.
It's so interesting, Kat, because my theory on this is that 90% of the job is done by its name. You know?
Yes.
So it's just like when you hear about, it's like, why did everybody leave suddenly when he got elected? Because just the name Trump meant something, Biden meant something else.
It's really hard for people to expect people to not to come and want a free stuff if you make it clear that if they come, they're going to get free stuff.
Exactly.
The name, obviously, Alligator Alcatraz does a lot of work.
Yes.
This is not a name that was given with the expectation that people would not go,
yes.
Because when you hear it, it does sound like they're going to be doing, like, Squid Game with the migrants in there.
Yes.
It's not that. And you know, it's not that. I mean, there's air conditioning from what I've read. It's not that. But what were you going to say?
I was going to say, you're right. And the media is actually doing Trump's job by amplifying the hysteria.
Because then he gets to say, when you make it sound like that, he gets to say, well, listen, really what it is we're saving money on the perimeter. Yeah. But that's not as catchy as Alligator Alcatraz. Thankfully, you can be someone who doesn't want to see people who are working get deported. And Joe Rogan was talking about that recently. People who are peaceful. And I think most people are like that. But then there are those uber progressives, obviously, who they need to find a way to victimize even violent criminals. And those people obviously should be roundly mocked.
Yes, exactly. Tyrus, it is pretty incredible where he could pull these eyes out of nowhere. And Joe's right. It's like if you escaped an actual prison, you'd be shot.
Yeah, or you'd be in a regular neighborhood.
Yeah.
kind of. Here's the thing. It's not even so much that they did this. It's because, once again, he came out with a cool marketing scheme.
Yeah.
There's going to be Alligator Alcatraz T-shirts. There'll be ones with like a bite mark, like, hey, out.
Yeah. I survived.
Yeah, you know.
Alcatraz.
And here's the thing. There is a boardroom somewhere in let's just say Chicago. Isn't that the bluest one right now?
Yeah.
Where they're sitting around with their dry erase board going, how the did he come up with Alligator Alcatraz? Hey, them heard this. Izzle. What was yours again? Well, we had the Green New Deal. That sucks. Nobody wants the Green New Deal. Pick an animal, make it cool. He's a marketing genius. Because you just want, I drive that all the time to go see my son play baseball and my daughter ride horses. I do that trip all the time. It is a boring ass ride, and occasionally you do see an alligator.
Yes, you do.
But I'm saying now I'll be driving, and hopefully we'll hear the cries of people scared. They'll be like, oh, that's cool. Roll the window down. But he's not, and here's the thing, and there's a bonus package. There's an Easter egg to this. Little known, Alligator Alley also has crocodiles. They were on the endangered species list. Now their numbers are up in record in Florida. So it's not just the alligator. So there will be a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Because he'd be like, my leg was bitten off by a crocodile.
Yes.
So then they can get around that. He said alligators. He didn't say anything about crocodiles. And then they could sue because crocodiles were misrepresented.
Yeah,
and they weren't, you know.
The
So there is a
crocodiles
light of hope there.
identified as alligators.
But
and
see,
the pronouns.
but he's smart enough to know that alligator, crocodile, Alcatraz is too much.
Exactly. He needed the alliteration. And meanwhile, of course, the libs will cry their crocodile tears.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.